The world is standing on a knife's edge, and most people don't even realize it. Right now, a geopolitical storm is brewing in the Arctic so intense it could reshape alliances, redraw borders, and redefine the balance of global power. And it's happening far from the headlines most Americans and Brits follow. Picture this. The United States, the most powerful military force in the world, is reportedly considering taking control of a NATO ally's territory. Not in a movie, not in a war game. This is Greenland, frozen, remote, sparsely populated, yet more strategically vital than almost any other land on Earth. Control of Greenland means command over Arctic shipping lanes, untapped critical minerals, and a military vantage point that rivals the world's most fortified positions. And if the U.S. moves unilaterally, experts warn this could trigger the first major rift in NATO since its founding, possibly setting the stage for a global confrontation. Europe is in turmoil. Britain and Germany are rushing to strengthen NATO forces in Greenland to show that unilateral action won't be tolerated. Denmark, which governs Greenland, has declared that any attempt to bypass its sovereignty will not be accepted, and is preparing specialized Arctic troops to defend the territory in extreme conditions. Meanwhile, the U.S. administration has not ruled out military options, raising alarm bells across the continent. Think about that for a moment. A NATO ally threatening a NATO ally. A scenario so extreme it could lead to internal conflicts within the alliance, potentially leaving Europe vulnerable, not to Russia, not to China, but to a power it has long called a friend. And yes, the U.S. military has the capability to act swiftly, making this more than a theoretical debate. But why Greenland? Because it's far more than ice and snow. It sits atop vast reserves of critical minerals essential for modern technology, from rare earth elements used in electronics and renewable energy to strategic minerals critical for defense systems. Control of Greenland would give any power a permanent strategic foothold in the Arctic, a region already heating up due to melting ice and emerging shipping lanes. Russia is expanding its Arctic military presence. China is exploring commercial and scientific bases. And the U.S. wants to ensure no rival gains an advantage, even if it risks destabilizing the very alliance it depends on. This is where the tension becomes real. Diplomats are racing behind closed doors. Military planners are reviewing rapid deployment options. European leaders are quietly warning that a single misstep could escalate into armed conflict. And ordinary citizens? Most have no idea the world is this close to a potential war scenario. Inside Europe, officials have warned that the implications go far beyond Greenland. A unilateral U.S. move would damage NATO trust, break alliance cohesion, and force European nations to take unprecedented steps to protect a fellow member. It could create a flashpoint not seen in decades, one that could force military confrontation between allies, a situation diplomats have been trying to avoid since the Cold War. Meanwhile, inside the United States, debate rages. Some officials argue this is a strategic necessity, a way to deter Russian and Chinese influence in the Arctic. Others say it is reckless, unpredictable, and could lead to catastrophic consequences, not just for Greenland or NATO, but for the entire global balance. And the Arctic itself, a region often ignored, blanketed in ice and isolation, is suddenly the epicenter of global strategic calculations. Military bases, radar installations, and advanced surveillance systems are all being reconsidered. Every country involved knows that control over the Arctic means control over the future of Northern Hemisphere security. But here's the chilling possibility. This is not just about diplomacy or mineral resources. If miscommunication or miscalculation occurs, the first military action could trigger a cascading series of retaliations, drawing Europe, the US, Russia, and China into a conflict that nobody can fully predict. Experts warn that Greenland could become the ignition point of a broader international war, not tomorrow, not in a year, but in a scenario that unfolds faster than most people can imagine. Inside Denmark and Greenland, Leadership is preparing for all possibilities. Troops are being trained for extreme Arctic conditions. Emergency response strategies are being updated. Surveillance and satellite monitoring are at maximum alert. And European NATO allies are coordinating operations to protect Greenland's sovereignty while trying to avoid an escalation. Meanwhile, global media is only beginning to cover the story. Most headlines focus on political statements or hypothetical diplomacy. Few capture the real gravity of the situation. One wrong move, one misinterpreted signal, one premature military deployment, and this could spiral into a crisis threatening world peace. For the ordinary viewer, this may feel distant, but think about the ripple effects. Oil and energy markets could spike overnight. Stock markets could experience unprecedented volatility. Defense spending and national security policies would be reshaped almost immediately, and public trust in international alliances could collapse if NATO appears fractured. This isn't sensationalism. This is the reality that Europe, the United States, Russia, and China are silently preparing for, a scenario most citizens won't fully understand until it's already underway. And here's the most frightening part. Once military options are discussed, once troops are deployed, the window to de-escalate closes rapidly. The world has seen before how alliances can fracture and conflict can ignite unexpectedly. Greenland is a frozen stage, but the consequences would be anything but cold. So ask yourself, are we looking at a new flashpoint that could trigger war? Or will diplomacy, restraint, and careful coordination prevent disaster? Right now, every decision by NATO, the US, and Denmark matters. Every statement, every troop movement, every satellite observation could tilt the balance. And ordinary citizens need to understand what's happening, because the next global crisis may not happen over there. It could impact all of us in the US and UK directly. If you want to stay ahead of this developing story, to understand the stakes, the players, and the unfolding strategy before it's too late, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We bring you every update, every analysis, and every angle, so you're never caught off guard when the next global confrontation hits the news. Greenland is not just ice, it's power, it's strategy, it's the world teetering on the edge of war, and every move matters.